I could get caught and there's a tiny chance I could be blown up. Oh, I can't go through this. I can't do it anymore. If I walk through there, they could shoot me.
Welcome back, everyone. You are watching part 5 of the straight line mission across England. A mission so long and hard, it should come with an adult warning. That said, I was actually in great spirits at the end of day 3. I'd gone over the halfway point and passed the worst of the gigantic hellhole that is Kielder Forest. And although it had been testing at times, to say the least,
Zip your f***ing pocket up!
There had been no trip-ending deviations or injuries. And it was a good job too, because next up was the most nerve-wracking task of any mission, let alone this one.
There's people there.
Otterburn Firing Range is the second largest military firing range in the country, at a whopping 11 miles long and over 6 miles wide. They fire there most days for at least 8 hours, during which time they will fly red flags to remind the public not to enter. When the flags are down, the public can enter, but must stick to the roads and paths. Obviously, my plan was to flaunt that rule, so I want to make it clear that this doesn't fall under the bracket of criminal trespass, as it would in some MOD areas. It's just a bit stupid. Tomorrow they were scheduled to start firing at 10 AM, so my plan was to rise at 5 AM, 3 hours before daybreak, power my way up this uphill mile of forest, giving myself a conservative hour to do so, and march across the remote moors of the firing range as quickly as I could, hopefully reaching the other side at around 8:30 AM. This would give me a very healthy cushion of time before the flags go up to call for help should I roll an ankle or something, but it would also give me 9 or so more hours of daylight to push on and make some serious ground over some quite favourable terrain that day. It was a good plan, except for one thing. Those pesky 56-mile-an-hour winds I mentioned in the previous episode. Climbing fallen trees in the pitch black would be bad enough without gale force winds. So, with the weather looking much better the day after, and firing times the same, we opted to simply skip a day, wait it out in the van and get some much needed rest in the process. Or, as it panned out for me, stand around on the road for 2 hours while Ben and Verity went to shower and get food.
If I hit the tree with this pine cone, the mission will be a success. Yes!
I forgot how good it feels not to have a phone. Not only was I free to lob pine cones around, but I was able to have a bloody good think.
I've now reached a point mentally where I feel tough. I feel very determined to get to the end now, come what may. It has to be a success now, and I've got to do everything that I can to make sure that it is one. That is the first person I've seen walking since the start, isn't it?
When the guys finally returned, it was worth the wait.
Sausage and egg. Oh my god. Three whole sausages in that. That is just what I need, isn't it?
That afternoon, we spent our time preparing for and perfecting our master plan, which, all being well, would see me travel an unprecedented 21 miles in a day and deliver me just 12 miles from the coast.
The biggest and most decisive day of the biggest mission yet. I'm excited.
But I was nervous too. Not nervous enough to turn down 3 helpings of pasta, but definitely enough to internally question what I was about to do.
Right, we're saying goodnight.
Yeah.
We'll see you at 4 in the morning. Fresh as a daisy. We've got to be in high spirits, man. Yes. In the morning we're gonna, because
it's gonna be -3.
Oh, it's gonna feel like -3. It's gonna be pitch black, and yeah, needless to say, one hell of a day ahead of us. Let's do it. See you in the morning.
In the morning, though, things didn't get off to a great start.
Wait, isn't that rain?
Sounds like it, yeah.
What's the forecast saying?
I've just checked. It says 0% chance, which is obviously not true because it's raining right now.
Sake. The trees will be wet again then. Ah, that's not good.
I could have done without slippery logs as an additional thing to worry about, but such was my focus and determination on this painfully cold and early start that I was still absolutely raring to go.
Right, it's 5 AM. It's showtime. See you later.
Good luck.
Love you. Bye. Let's do it, Ben. Ready? See you up the hill. And I begin. This section could be awful.
I'm going to try and get through these first few dark hours as quick as I can for you. Thankfully this time we've got the head torch to brighten up both of our views a bit. But even here, I had to be careful where I pointed it.
There is a worker up there. Already working.
There had been a worker stationed bang on my line the day before, but we happened to know that his shift didn't start till 8.
Here we go, this is where he's been working.
That worker's job was evidently to clear the masses of fallen trees that littered this hillside. Now I don't know how good a grafter he is, but it didn't take long for me to reach the extent of his work.
I don't even know if there's a way up here. I've got to just pick a route. Is that even possible? No. No, it's not.
The worst case scenario was playing out again, but this time it was dark, uphill, and I really couldn't hang about either. I was taking as much care as I could whilst skirting around the bad parts, and even then I was slipping up.
Oh, f***. That's the deviation. It's looking like around 50 metres. Oh, this is so tricky. I can't go up there either. There has to be a way around here, or we might be into silver.
I had most definitely strayed into silver again, but thankfully, despite not being able to see more than 10 yards in front of me, I found a way round along the edge of the worst of it.
Stay upright, trees. Stay strong.
It was another bad deviation, the worst yet in fact, but there was not much avoiding it if we wanted to cross Otterburn safely. The plan was actually to meet Ben at the first forest track, and he was going to join me for a section. When I reached that track though, he wasn't there again.
Okay, I think I'm at the wrong bit, because Ben can't get through this, can he?
So I figured it was the next track up, and ploughed on into this beautifully dense, short wet pine interspersed with clusters of slimy logs. For those wondering what it was like to traverse this sort of place in the dark, it was awful.
Ah, no. That's not what you want.
And I'd got my clothing wrong again.
Roasting.
When I finally reached the end of this section, I was even more confused.
Ben? Where the f*** is he? I don't understand.
Turns out Ben had been spooked by the same worker I could see earlier and decided not to draw any unnecessary attention to himself.
Right, I'm moving on. And this looks awful.
The final 450 metre section was just as hard as the last, if not harder.
I'm literally crawling, guys. Get me out of here, man.
But after a pretty horrible hour, I finally reached the end of my tumultuous 3-day affair with Kielder Forest and dove straight into my one-night stand with Otterburn.
Can I open this? No, of course not. But I can climb it. And there's sheep in there, that's good. There's your markers. Okay guys, that wasn't the quickest, but we're on schedule. 6 miles that way is freedom, and I think great chances of success. Before that, potential trouble and potential danger. I could get caught and there's a tiny chance I could be blown up. No, I don't think so. I'm just being dramatic as usual, but let's get across it. Let's see how fast we can move. That's the main thing. And if I get injured, then I am in a pickle. Let's waste no more time.
Gladly, I didn't see any of these terrifying signs on the way in, but even so, I decided to scan the ground as I went. Ground, by the way, that was already showing signs of being the firmer, grassier sort of terrain that I was hoping for the most part.
Okay, we're into thick heather now. This isn't good. But it's still sort of 2 miles an hour.
I was moving pretty quick until suddenly, just half a mile in, I was stopped in my tracks by a much more perturbing sight.
Shit. There's people there. No, there's sheep. Oh my god. That scared the shit out of me. I thought they were soldiers. I could see eyes, which I thought were torches. I thought they were doing nice ops. Continue the run, Tom. Here's the first peculiar military-based object. Now coming up soon, guys, in 800 metres, Roman road. I can technically be on that, but if troops are running across and they see my head torch approach, they're going to be asking questions.
But the Roman road was as dead as the blokes who built it.
I think I'm alone. There doesn't seem to be any soldiers around. And we're over it. That's buzzing.
However, shortly after this, my newfound sense of peace was shattered when I saw a vehicle on the road just to my north doing manoeuvres.
Oh, there is a vehicle there. I don't know what that's doing.
Looking at the map, it was probably a vehicle in this farm, but it definitely put me on high alert. On the plus side, there were now enough photons of light about for me to just about see where I was going with the torch on its middle setting.
You can see the light, look. It's getting there.
And before too long, I'd reached my next point of concern.
Okay, this is Kielder Road. No torches. No soldiers. And this is runnable. Come on.
And the good pace continued.
To the end, 5.6k. I've nearly done half of it. Hell.
And despite the appearance of a few random objects,
They've been shooting at that, yeah. Definitely not lifting that up.
I was now down to my dimmest torch setting and starting to enjoy myself.
And more sheep mean more bomb-free land. Look at that sky. Red sky in the morning, shepherd's warning. Because I'm coming for the farmland beyond.
But not before I fell down a bomb crater.
I just looked back at the moon for 1 second and I fell down one of these. There's loads of them, look. If we've got shell craters, I think there's a higher chance of shells.
Full beam had to go back on, especially in the tall grass of this swampy area. But there were no booms and we were soon approaching the final military road.
Nearly at Ridley's now. And wow, there's a tank. There's a tank. This is a beautiful place, by the way. Okay, to the end. It's a beautiful 3.33k and there's no more roads. Will there be anything scary?
By this point, I knew my chances of making it across were rising rapidly, and with them the splendid winter sun.
Wow.
Throw into the mix some lovely normal terrain which you can actually walk on, and it was easily enough to trigger one of my deliriously happy / slightly mad episodes.
Wow. Rodney Throbber was my only friend, but Nigel Thornberry was my closest friend throughout these years.
On top of this, the legs were feeling great after the rest day, and it was so easy to gaze on eastward towards the coast dreaming of glory. But I really should have been keeping my eyes on the ground.
Oh fuck, nearly stepped on that. Yeah, there's another one, look. I like the fact they're on the grass so you can see them. This is so blinking remote. Can't wait to run down the other side of this. What's this going to look like? Wow. It's a sight to behold, and that valley down there, that's where Ben and Verity will be. Way ahead of schedule.
I really had smashed even my most optimistic of ETAs, and it felt incredible. Just before the end of the MOD land was another small farm. I had no idea what kind of agreement the farmers might have with the soldiers, or how they'd react to one running across their sheep field, albeit a phony one. But of course it never came to that,
Don't hear or see anyone. And good luck catching me.
And aside from one slightly embarrassing miscalculation...
Is that a dog? No. It's a little black lamb, I think.
It was a stress-free sprint over the finish line and towards freedom.
There's the River Coquet. And there's the van. Yes! Get in! What a celebratory moment this is going to be.
There he is. Oh God.
I'd made it to our meeting spot in a delightfully quick time. But don't worry, Mother Nature was there and she was determined to balance things out.
That's quite deep, that. Shall I chuck my boots over? Oh, that's powerful.
Oh. Quick. Oh.
Oh no.
Oh God.
Alright.
Okay, get out of here.
Oh man. Well, that's going to set us back some time while I dry off.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
What have I got in here? Oh,
Shit.
that's not good.
It's the battery that's a bit dodgy.
Cocktail juice.
Mate, I genuinely thought you were getting swept away then.
I know.
Sorry, I didn't think the time. Do you want a bite?
Okay.
You win some, you lose some, eh?
You're out of it
Put
now.
it there though. I didn't get blown
Well
up.
done, well done. Oh my God.
The good news is I can move at well above 2 miles an hour today. I think,
That's what I said, this is more of the same now.
yeah,
But you haven't got the stress of being in
exactly.
It was mixed emotions. I was chuffed to be there, but I was drenched. Even with the faffing about that resulted though, today had some serious potential.
I've whacked out 7 miles there in 3 hours. I was thinking, mate, I could do those extra 7 miles and get to Purdy Lodge.
Probably 26 miles.
If I go... Well, I feel good. If Kielder Forest is like not too bad, we'll play it by ear. Right. See you later.
Good luck, mate.
Get in. See you in a bit. God, what a remote road this actually is. And we are away. I've got a shadow now. The sun is out. Let's see how quickly I can do this next pretty mountainous moorland section.
2.2 miles was the distance to my next potential arena of anguish, Kielder Forest. It promised to be a taxing stretch on the legs, but I was in the shape of my life, having smashed the stair machine in the gym for 3 months, and I was starting to really master this whole eating and drinking thing too, topping myself up regularly and on the move. Halfway in though, a humbling sight.
Oh my God. I've got to go up that. That is a wedge and a half. That's almost as big as the original Wales wedge. No, this is not going to be fast moving, is it? To be honest, that scree looks really steep from here. We'll see when we get there.
First though, after an annoyingly rapid loss of altitude, there was another pesky river to cross, and this time there'd be no one there to laugh at or rescue me.
Right, I'm about 15 metres off, but it's so deep down there and I don't want to repeat of earlier. Can I do this though? If I go in there, I'm up to my neck. That is devastating. Let's see here. It's all about my foothold there. Whoa! Whoa, Tommy. Can I leap? I think I can leap. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, thank f***. No, that was the right call. I don't regret that.
Then, after a little practice run for the big wedge, I entered a truly gorgeous valley whose remote gravel farm track straddled my line and even offered me a perfectly placed bridge over which I could cross the river again.
What a moment this is. This is beautiful. Look at that.
A second bridge offered me and my freshly bandaged big toe yet another chance to avoid a drenching.
Yeah, it's about 20 metres off.
But of course, just seconds later, this indulgent flatness came to an abrupt end.
Right, time for the climb now, and I think as usual, I mean it looks awful, but as usual, things always look worse from a distance. So yeah, up we go. Don't want any big rocks to start cascading down like that one. I'm just going to take my time up this. I'm going to have a big case of missioner's drift here, where you tend to drift down because all the strain is going on your right leg. Quite handily, the sheep run across this and make little tracks. What a lovely little spot.
It was a tough one, there's no doubt about that.
Now I'm starting to see why they call this Usway Burn.
But in comparison to what had come before on this trip, and what was up ahead for that matter, this was a walk in the park. And a pretty breathtaking one too.
Oh, it's a good piss. That's a solid outdoor piss. Okay, we're petering out here. Let's see if the kilometre or so to Kielder Forest is flatter and kinder.
It certainly was. Nearly 3 miles an hour, in fact. The question now was, how fast, or rather slow, would I be moving inside the forest?
There's Kielder Forest. It's time for my last real dance with the pines. Hopefully, this isn't the nightmare forest that our Google searches were hinting that it might be.
Storm Arwen, the main culprit for all the fallen tree sections I'd faced on this mission, wreaked havoc in this forest in 2021, something we'd only really learnt the full extent of during our Google searches the day before. Some debris had apparently been cleared by workers and some hadn't. All I could do really was hope that my line didn't pass through the worst of it.
And nothing, I repeat, nothing can be as bad as the other day.
The first section was short and dense and lasted for 220 metres, and at 10:10, just as Ben and Verity were sneaking their way up one of the many gravel tracks that snaked through the forest, I got my first sorry sniff of what was to come.
You can see, look, already some of Storm Arwen's damage, and actually I am heading straight into that. Let's just pray that they've cleared a lot of it. Okay, here we go. How bad is this?
From what I could see, the trees were still quite slippy. Now, if they weren't piled up too high like this, that wouldn't be a problem. But having committed to a lengthy skirt along the edge of what looked to be quite a bad patch, it began to get not only higher, but wider too.
Oh, look at this. This is what I was worried about. They've started to slide further down. I don't like how steep the land is as well. It's more risk of it all moving. Gravity plays a bigger role.
Keen not to trigger a log avalanche, I continued the leftward skirting, but it just seemed like my luck was destined to run out at any moment.
Oh man, I can't go back and I can't go over that, so I've got to keep inching left. I'm probably 25 now or so, but yeah, let's see.
And that pattern repeated itself.
Now what? I can't go over it, it's too dangerous. So I'm inching further now towards 30, 35.
At this point, I'm starting to wonder whether I should have gone the other way from the start, but I'd come too far to turn back now. I had to keep battling through, but staying close to the line was getting more and more difficult and risky.
Don't like being under that. I don't like being under this at all. Get out of there. No, I don't like this one bit. Look at what's above me. This is way more involved than I wanted it to be, but I really want to keep this mission alive now, more than ever. I just don't know what the end to this will be. Could be absolutely huge, this. I've got no way of knowing.
My decision to battle on through had reaped some rewards on the deviation front.
We're quite close to the line now, somehow.
But that wasn't the only thing it had done.
Now what are we looking at? I'm going to climb up and see. Ah yes, the end of this section at least. Thank God they've cleared past this point. Oh, that was... I could have easily turned back there, but I persevered and it seems to have paid off.
Apparently I was too distracted to remember not to climb the last part.
What day is it? I have no idea, to be honest.
But once again I was through it, unimpaled and unsquished.
I'm so glad to be through that. Let's carry on, because That took loads of time.
My pipe dream of reaching the incredibly well-positioned Purdy Lodge on the famous A1 tonight was suddenly looking a bit silly.
These are dangerous as well because they're much more prone to moving. Health and safety tips from GeoWizard.
But if it weren't for the forestry workers of Kielder, who had cleared up a huge amount of fallen trees at some point, but who I was also hoping wouldn't be doing so today, I'm not sure this section would have been possible. And this was just one little section out of dozens and dozens in this forest.
Okay, let's get across this track just in case a worker comes. Don't know if this is a public track actually. And up we go.
Aside from having the least firm soil in the world, I was also discovering that Kielder Forest was incredibly hilly.
Yeah, man. This is huge.
The one tiny positive to that was the great view of the brown bedlam that I'd just come through.
Ha! Can you believe that? There's no way I could have gone to the left. Goes on for ages.
I could see on the map that I was only shaving the next bit of forest, so when its contents were inevitably horizontal, I knew I could skirt round it, and I'm glad I decided to as well.
Oh, there we go. We're going to get away with a 20 metre. Huh. Glad I didn't go through now. Oh, brilliant. Is that what's ahead?
That's not what was ahead. I was more like here, but that was all right.
Okay, looks like we've got some short stuff here, but I'll take it over that. Oh, come here. Look at you, all safe and bushy. Yeah, safety. Downhill. And I'm on a deer track. Track that's very dear to my eye.
In all seriousness, this section wasn't a stroll in the park, but I didn't care because things were looking up. I was definitely just missing the only fallen trees I could see.
Ooh, a mountain bike track. Cool.
And I was now just half a mile from the meeting spot, which at the very least Ben would be running to if the van couldn't reach.
Right, that was decent.
This pleasant valley floor then led me into a tall forest where, after a bit of ducking and weaving and hoping and praying, it opened up into a wonderfully sturdy and spacious affair.
Come on, come on, come on, stay good.
Me, it was steep though.
I don't know what the elevation is on this day, but I am hurting. And I'm not halfway through, I don't think. Am I? I might be, roughly.
After an almighty dose of lactic acid to the quads,
Oh, this is steep.
the hill petered out, the trees held out,
Stay strong. Hold it together.
and it was over to my last pre-meeting spot section.
Ooh, Portaloo. Yeah, this stuff now for 375 metres, and I'll be greeted by Ben and Verity.
But I was already looking right at them.
Ooh, is that them? Yo! Oh, they've heard me.
Nicely ahead of schedule again.
Yeah, a little bit.
Mate, are you okay?
Huh?
You're alright, because we looked at some of the forests.
Yeah, mate, it's been bad.
We just tucked into a pot noodle and she was like, I can see him.
Did you hear me then?
No.
Oh, really?
I saw you in the wing mirror.
Oh, no.
Do you want a pot noodle? We're about to make you one.
Yeah, yeah, I'll have one. Shall I meet you
On the other side.
on the
yeah.
other side, yeah? Sweet.
Aside from one little blip,
Body bag. Let's just ignore that.
it was a pretty routine stretch through some medium pineage, over to the van, where Ben provided me with another wholesome meal and a lovely story to go with it.
Did you see that toilet back there?
The blue one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I took a shit in it.
Off.
No, serious. She had a wee in it as well. And the water that came out of it was like brown and putrid. And
Oh.
it stunk. It was almost as if it
Oh.
was flushing using the water that was in the bottom of the toilet. It
Oh.
was awful.
Oh,
But
mate.
it was nice because
Enjoy your pot noodle.
Right, it's 12 o'clock now.
Yep.
We've figured out that it's roughly 4 miles to the next meeting point, Linhope Estate.
Yep.
So I'll aim for 2, unless this is terrible in here, but I think 2 is still a good estimation. Then it's another
4 miles.
4 miles or so
To
to
Rod
Rod and Burn, so 4 p.m.
Yep.
Then it's a 2 miles to the end. One last little bit.
Good luck, mate.
Cheers. Right, I'll see you at Linhope. 1.8k, just over a mile. Doesn't sound a lot, but God, it could be awful. Let's do it.
I'm not exactly sure why I had such a bad feeling about this last mile or so, but I was right to, because what lay ahead was by far and away the worst collection of sections, because there were several, of fallen trees I'd come up against yet, and if I wasn't already regretting my decision to plot my line through as much forest as possible in a bid to avoid my most feared foe, the farmer, I was definitely about to.
I just got a feeling we're going to have more fallen trees. Like that. Look at that friggin' mess.
To start things off was a downhill section that may not have been the biggest or most log heavy of the bunch, but it was damp, bushy and incredibly slippy.
Gotta watch out here, these are really slippy.
The slippiness was one thing, but it was actually the bushiness that made this particularly gnarly, because it obscured the view of whatever lay below.
No, that's too dangerous. I don't like that. There's the floor, I can't see the godforsaken floor.
Thankfully, the floor wasn't too far down below, otherwise I would not have gone anywhere near this. But even so, it was dodgy and very slow.
This is way worse than I thought. Checking the GPS. Okay, we're alright.
This damp hellhole tested my balance,
Nearly fell down a hole there.
concentration,
These are shit.
and patience,
Get off, you bellend.
and did so for precisely 15 minutes or 100 metres.
Look at this. Look how slippy this is. And I'm walking down it like the silly sausage I am.
Before finally releasing me from its slimy clutches.
Yeah, we're down at a stream. Be buzzing if that's the last one.
But of course, it wasn't. And after another leg-frazzlingly steep climb, it was time for patch number 2. And this was the biggest one I'd faced yet.
Oh, Christ. Now what? Do I get up high? I think I've got to get up high. Oh no. It's an absolute ocean. You can see the tops. You can see it goes on for ages, guys. I'm going to have to check both ways.
Firstly, I went south to see if there was a decent path through, but after 50 metres of scouting, nothing.
It goes on. It goes on and on. I've got to scope out the other way. I can't go through this. I can't do it anymore.
Apart from there being literally no end in sight on this one, the logs were still slippy. Significantly slippier than they were on day 1, I'd say. Needless to say, there was no way I was going to enter that place on my own, and it almost felt like the remaining living trees were warning me not to.
That's no good. That's 30 metres off.
At this point, I was convinced that all my hard work was about to be undone. But just over 50 metres north of the line, a glimmer of hope.
This is my only hope around here. I think I'm about 60 metres offline now. I don't know if this is going to be doable, but this is my only hope. I don't know what to do if it's not.
For the first time, I could see living trees on the left-hand side about 150 metres away. Who knows what lay beyond that, but for now, it was either get to them or it was game over.
There's no other option, is there?
But it was still a dodgy option.
Oh, mate. Oh, my elbow. Check. Oh. Check all the weights. That doesn't take into account if it's slippy as does it?
And even then, it didn't really seem to be working.
I'm getting further away. But look what's there. I can't get through that. Up there, that's going to be really far off, Tom.
At this point, although I hadn't quite, I was sure I'd entered into the bronze zone and cruising towards failure. I could deviate no more.
I don't want to fail. I'm going in to see what I can do. Into the bowels of it. Maybe there's a route. Just maybe.
To my great relief, the northern fringes of this latest ocean of timber were relatively shallow, and I was able to meander my way through it, sometimes coming back on myself to avoid a dead end, and in doing so avoiding high or dangerous climbs.
Okay, I'm inching closer. I'm zigzagging.
I had to push my boundaries at times, but it paid off. And 160 metres later, salvation.
We're going to do this. It's just a question of how far did I deviate.
As I made my sorry way back to the line, I got a telling view of what I just avoided.
Well, that makes me feel better. I definitely couldn't have gone the other way. That is an absolute ocean.
But the burning question, as I barged my way through the second densest forest I'd ever set foot in, remained just how far had I deviated. It's actually annoyingly hard to decipher while your activity is still running, so I came up with an ingenious way to do so, whilst finally putting these blasted pine needles to some good use.
We might be alright, you know. I think we're alright, you know.
Having spent 9 minutes scraping the forest floor, my bum then hit a clearing,
I'm on my arse.
and on the opposite side, I officially became fed up of trees.
Get me out of this forest!
But unfortunately for me, the worst was yet to come.
Oh, what? I didn't think we had any more.
What I was looking at was the start of the final level, the main boss. An enormous network of fallen tree patches that stretched pretty much all the way to the far edge of Kielder Forest, over 500 metres away. It wasn't constant, but with no means of scouting it out, which, by the way, a drone would have come in very useful for, I didn't have a clue what was up ahead. It was going to be another case of finding routes, backtracking if I needed to, and hoping for the best.
These look like they're standing. I'll be about 35 metres off.
There's no way I could possibly show you every twist, turn or track back that occurred in the following 40 minutes or so, but I'll do my best to summarise it for you. Skirting along the edge of this huge patch here was doable, but again slippy and therefore precarious, and it still took me about 60 metres off. Then, massive relief, short pine up ahead, spelling the end to all this nauseating clambering.
I've got no words, man. That is the last one though. Hopefully of the whole bloody mission. I never want to do any of that again.
But of course, there were loads more. Immediately.
No! No.
This forced me to crawl through more incredibly dense trees, diagonally away from the line, a personal low point for the day.
God-forsaken forest.
To my right was one of the most impassable things I'd ever seen. A gigantic jumble of dead trees which had clearly been there for years, with fresh bushy saplings just engulfing it all. A deadly combination that I had no choice but to hug the edge of until its end, which I could clearly see on the map.
Hug. We're hugging round.
This time I was convinced that I was in the bronze zone, and I was right, but painfully it was only by 3 metres, I would later find out. The rails had well and truly come off in terms of deviations, just like I knew they would.
Imagine how many sites like this I'm going to see. I don't think it's going to be doable. I'm just being realistic.
I'd scraped through it all till now, but was my luck about to run out?
Thing is, it gets wider than that. Up there, I've got to go back in. This is a huge moment of truth.
It seemed I'd been given another lifeline.
Maybe there's a way through this.
A strip of mostly upright trees that cut across this section, which allowed me to get back to the line.
Looks like there's room.
After what felt like mere seconds, though, I hit this bad boy.
It's going to be another deviation. And I'm thinking this time it's to the right.
This forced me pretty damn wide again, but not as wide thanks to some determined clambering over these relatively nice, bare and dry logs.
No, don't break. Oh, that's, no, don't like that. So hollow.
Eventually, though, As always, but this time a bit more physically and mentally exhausted than usual, I made it out.
And that's it. Pretty much that entire section is on the floor. I can't believe I've even got through that, to be honest, and that I'm still going. I'd love to know what Archie and Adam would do. I'm sure they'll have similar sections. I'll be really lucky if they don't. Right, the moors are just there, 200 meters away. But look at this. Look at this. It's like someone's laughing at me. It's like I'm in a simulation. I think I actually am, to be honest. That is no. I've seen some mad places, man. They've all tested me in different ways, but Kielder Forest was absolutely horrendous, and still is. Oh, there we go. And right at the end of Kielder Forest, a pile of slimy old logs. Just as one final little test for me. But you're not going to win. I've defeated you. See ya. Never again, man. I don't think I can ever do anything like this again. And that's another reason to get to the end.
Having spent an eye-watering 4 hours in Kielder Forest, I was now behind schedule, but with nothing but open moorland ahead of me for 7 miles now, I was hoping to blitz my way across it and get back on track. And what better to spur me on than my first sighting of the sea? Or at least I thought it was.
It's not the sea, is it? It is, isn't it? Oh my god, I don't know. But either way, I'm running whenever I can. The more time I can make up, the more chance there is of getting to Lilburn tonight, which would be incredible.
The original plan was to camp here, next to a public footpath on the Linhope estate, a walker-friendly but ultimately private farm and hunting estate where Ben and Verity were currently stationed, ready for our afternoon rendezvous. The plan to camp there was scrapped for 2 main reasons. Firstly, there were more 50-mile-an-hour winds forecast for tonight, which would likely result in a frustrating evening and a dreadful night's sleep. The other factor at play here, though, was my increasing desire not to take any unnecessary risks. At the start of this series, I talked about what a double-edged sword it would be to survive the forests, but then have to head back into more farmland. Well, I was right. It was terrifying, but far less so with this new plan.
That is definitely the sea, by the way.
A van camp at the faraway Lilburn would protect us from the wind, but it would also mean that I could get through this troublesome looking run of fields in the dim light of this evening before tackling this section before sunrise the following morning. Even with that genius plan though, it was paranoia time again.
This is the Linhope estate. The only thing is, it is kind of private. I mean, there are lots of public footpaths, but if I stray from those, which I obviously am, the landowners might take issue. So already it's farmer threat time again, and I'm pretty sure I can see a vehicle. Otherwise, what is that white thing? I also heard a loud clatter coming from the farmyard in the middle of the estate, which I have to skirt past. There. Booming across the hillside there. So there's someone at work.
But of course, this wasn't farming activity or any other work for that matter.
There, look. Someone's waving a flag. What the f***? What was that red and white flag he was waving? Massive thing. Oh, f***ing hell. Are they shooting? Look. There's loads of people in there with flags. That is not good, mate. That is probably the worst possible sight I could have seen. They're defo shooting in there. What do I do? Wait here a bit? Or I have no idea. So this is ridiculous, guys, but I'm pretty sure they're hunting deer in this wood. You can hear the gunshots.
I've seen people waving flags, and I've just seen a deer run across. If I walk through there, they could shoot me. They could see movement and shoot me. Or, yeah, I could just be in the line of fire. I don't know what to do.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait until next week to find out what happened here, to see whether or not I could complete this roller coaster mammoth of a day and ultimately make it to that elusive North Sea coast and become the first person to cross England in a straight line.